I remember the burning taste of shame before I remember any glory. The hall was packed, imprinted with the fading scent of breakfast and old wood polish. Ceiling fans chopped through the warm Mumbai air, stirring the low buzz of conversations, mocking and reassuring both at once. I was 17, sweating through my best shirt, my violin case gripped like a shield as I stood alone at the front. My Uncle Abraham, never one to miss a chance at theatricality, presided like a judge, sitting on his old plastic chair, his knees open wide, his gut taking up space. "So, Joseph," he said, pausing for effect, "you want to play violin? You want to be a big man on some stage instead of working at the bank or joining your father's clinic?" A ripple of laughter tore through the faces lining the walls, neighbors, cousins, even my mother, pinching her sari nervously. I felt flush and stubborn, rage simmering under my skin. Dad's eyes met mine. His silence weighed heavier than the derision. "Let him explain at least," my mother whispered, though not loud enough for anyone else to truly hear. Abraham waved a dismissive hand. "Tell us, Joseph, who will feed your stomach when you are scraping strings in some alley? There are 50 violinists in Mumbai who eat vodapov to survive. What will you do? Play in weddings like Lobo's son? Even that fellow works 2 jobs. Someone snorted behind me. I tried to steady my breath, to control my shaking, unbending my fingers from the handle. Every cell in me was alive with humiliation and something more dangerous, a coiled need to fight. "I want to apply to the conservatory," I said, surprised by the strength in my own voice. "I want to be a classical musician, not just in weddings but in orchestras, in concerts. I want to compose, travel, perform." Abraham, of course, cut me off, booming with a forced laugh. "And will you fly to Vienna, Joseph? Will the Prime Minister send you tickets?" Another eruption of laughter. He stood, gesturing at everyone as if this were a comedy show and I its star clown. "You're a bright boy. You could be engineer, doctor, banker. What is this nonsense?" My breathing grew ragged, but I stood my ground, though my palms stung where my nails pressed deep. "It's not nonsense to me," I finally said, fixing my gaze ahead so I wouldn't see Dad's disappointment morphing in the corner of my eye. "It's everything." No applause followed. My statement dropped like a stone between us. "You'll disgrace us," Abraham muttered. And with that, the verdict was sealed. I would make my own choices, but without approval or support and with the open judgment of everyone I'd ever known. The sound of my own voice haunted me later, more raw and exposed than my violin strings snapping mid-performance. That was my farewell to innocence, and to the warmth of that circle, my family. My community. Home shrank after that day. My mother's touch grew tentative, lingering on my shoulder as if she were still weighing the right thing to do. Dad didn't talk much, just left silent cups of chai and nodded his fingers around legal documents at the kitchen table. I played every night in the room I shared with my younger brother Noel, practicing until neighbors rapped on the thin wall and hissed that they needed to wake early. Sometimes I played on the terrace under the winking stars, notes scattering toward distant lights of the trains. Each note was a prayer, a catapult, a flammable thing I sent flying into the world, if anyone was listening. I auditioned for the Mumbai School of Classical Music with an instrument borrowed from an old friend of my father's. During the audition, my bow trembled, and I saw the judges exchange glances. But I played through the piece, closing my eyes, setting every ounce of longing and anger and dream into the music, something by Shostakovich, torn, beautiful, defiant. "Why do you want this?" a judge asked, scribbling something without looking up. The answer was on my tongue. "So when I return, you will listen." Instead I said, "Because it is the only thing that makes sense." I got in. I started at the lowest rung, with other misfits, some from rich Cov Parade families, others from distant towns with only a bag of clothes and starvation behind their eyes. We competed for practice rooms and scraped beside those from old, established musical lineages. Their confidence bruised me. Their casual references to summers in Italy or lessons with visiting maestros were like pebbles in my shoes. Everything was more expensive than I'd predicted. Sheet music, lessons, strings, even rosin for my bow. I gave classes to children in Bandra and played backup at two-star hotels, lugging my violin through morning traffic, the strap cutting into my collarbone. My family held out a wary, bruised affection. Before exams or performances, Ma would feed me extra rice and sprinkle holy water, murmuring prayers she never said aloud. Dad only met my gaze when I described bad days. "Doesn't sound like easy work," he'd mutter. I learned to understand that in his way, he was proud. There were moments I nearly broke. The humiliation of missing a passage in a packed rehearsal room, the loneliness of eating dare in fluorescent-lit canteens, mascara smudged off the faces of singers, the endless whine of train breaks on my commute. I craved, some days, the simple approval of my family. I craved a hand on my back, telling me to rest, to let it go. But any time I walked near the old hall, I remembered Uncle Abraham's laughter, the rustle of bodies moving away from me. If I stopped, I would prove them right. I graduated near the top. Just after the ceremony, I passed Uncle Abraham on the street outside the church. He did not see me, or pretended not to. He was busy complaining about the price of fish. I walked on. Work was not steady, not at first. I auditioned for orchestras, assembled quartets that fell apart when someone's wedding beckoned, or when a member's parent demanded a real job. Sometimes I wondered if Abraham's laughter held a curse, but the city, with all its indifference, offered strange moments of grace. Late one June evening, the director of the Mumbai Philharmonia came to a hotel performance, drumming his wide fingers on the bar, while I played Tchaikovsky alongside a breathless, overworked pianist. He watched every note. When he asked for my number after, I felt every cell in my body wake up. He called a week later for an audition. The concert hall was empty. All the red velvet seats turned toward the stage. I played Brahms' violin concerto, letting the music carry every day I'd walked through the pale morning smog. Every drop of sweat that marked me an outcast within my own home. Every time I'd practiced hidden on the roof. At the end, he was silent for so long I thought I'd failed, but then he only nodded, scribbling my name in a battered notepad. I joined the second violins that year. Each time I walked on stage, the house lights white-hot on my face, I searched the audience for familiar shapes. Mostly, it was strangers. In the silence between applause, I sometimes swore I could hear the echo of laughter. But it vanished as politely as the bow of a concertmaster. Years piled up. Concerts, recordings, collaborations. My name started appearing in reviews, small at first. I traveled for festivals, for competitions, for fleeting summer workshops in places I once could only imagine. Prague, Berlin, even Vienna. Sometimes on return trips to Mumbai, I'd cross paths with a cousin in the market. They'd nod stiffly, distantly, but their eyes didn't linger. My family watched from behind a thin, transparent barrier, proud, perhaps, but wary of the thing I'd become. Every visit home was awkward, tinged with both love and disappointment. I learned ways to shrink myself, to comment on the heat, the rain, the quality of mangoes instead of my work. Uncle Abraham's health faded. He grew quieter, old age dulling his voice but sharpening his frown whenever I entered the room. The others followed his lead. The first to shun is rarely the first to accept. Then, one August, when Mumbai's air was thick with the coming of the monsoon, everything changed. A letter arrived, fat, with official seals and heavy paper, The Mumbai Philharmonia was to open its new season with the Beethoven Violin Concerto. The director wanted me as their soloist, my name in the center of the program in bold. It was the kind of concert families told stories about, where tickets sold out before the flyers even hit the walls. When I delivered the invitation to my family, the old house became a quiet animal, watchful, curious, half afraid. My mother ran her thumb over the embossed gold lettering as if expecting it to melt away into a trick. Dad read it twice. I told them softly that there would be an extra ticket for family if anyone wanted it. Uncle Abraham, slumped in an easy chair, sipped his tea without looking up. "Big concert, is it?" he sighed. "Plenty of violinists in these things. Don't expect me to clap if you play badly." He smiled at that, the old sneer worn thin with years. My heart stuttered. All my triumphs felt suddenly shallow. I still hungered for the thing he had once withheld: acceptance. The week before the concert was a fever dream. Rehearsals stretched deep into the night, the hall echoing with tuneless scales and battered applause. I slept in snatches, bow arm aching for repetition. Old doubts resurfaced. Are you enough, really? As I stared at myself in the ceiling mirror of my small flat. But every time fear crept in, I pictured the church hall, the sea of faces dismissing me. That memory had become the steel in my spine. The day of the concert, traffic buckled the city. Monsoon rain slashed the windshields, streetlights flickered, and the whole world seemed to pulse with my nerves. In the green room, musicians tuned and cursed and sipped coffee. My suit was